Overpowered characters in fiction. That is what we are talking about today. Okay, last week, Monday, I made a video talking about overpowered abilities in fiction. And that video exceeded literally all expectations, and I said that if it did do well to a certain degree, I would make a spiritual successor to that one. And I gotta keep up my side of the bargain, bro. Do you have any idea how many part 2s I owe you guys? Oh my gosh, bro, it stresses me out just thinking about it, because it's like, I still owe you guys Historical Aura Volume 3. And I'll be frank with you, dude, that there's still a lot that I gotta put on there without being a little bit too controversial, okay? But, that is what we're gonna be talking about in this video. What makes a character overpowered? When the plot itself has to literally... let me correct this really quick, because I need this to be heard loud and clear. When the plot itself, it has to be restructured, because you are so overpowered, it is actively difficult to find you, like, villains that are actually competitive with you. Then I would say you are overpowered. Here's an example. Literally the most famous MacGuffin ever constructed in the history of literature. That being kryptonite. Okay? Was literally made because the authors of Superman kind of wrote themselves into a corner because they realized that Superman is so overpowered, there is nobody that they can write to beat him. Not until later, after all. But that's how kryptonite was created. Another one, Gojo from JJK. Dude, it is so funny. Dude, the author of JJK talks about Gojo like he was some annoying dude from high school. Like, oh my goodness, bro. Yeah, Gojo's Infinity was an absolute headache to work with. Brother, you wrote it! You wrote Gojo's Infinity, and that's a whole other rabbit hole we're going to be opening up. And then that got me going down a rabbit hole. The history of overpowered characters. Everything from Journey to the West, that being Sun Wukong, Scarlet Witch from the MCU, to the one above all in the Marvel Universe. That is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be taking some of the most overpowered characters in the entirety of fiction and ranking them on just how overpowered they are. If this video is entertaining you at all, consider a like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 250,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We are less than 25,000 away. That is crazy, bro. We are about to hit our yearly goal. My bet is I think we're going to hit it by mid-September. I think mid-September we're going to actually make it. And I'm absolutely hyped for that to be the case. And, you know what, bro? 500,000 subscribers before the release of GTA 6 is actually a possibility. And hit the subscribe button to stay notified to keep that dream alive. Oh my goodness, bro. That nearly got me right there. With all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Let's go. Satoru Gojo. Okay, understand this. Gojo's Infinity, from a narrative standpoint, is so dumb. Because the amount of stuff that has to be written into the story that literally come out of nowhere for the sole purpose of getting through his infinity is kind of funny. Okay, we have a special cursed dagger that's only ability is really to pierce cursed energy, which is a direct counter to Gojo's Infinity. And if nobody knows what Gojo's Infinity is, I've covered it a couple times on this channel. Gojo's Infinity is essentially, imagine I have a force field around me, but the force field infinitely divides space from your attack to me. So what that means is the reason that you can't hit me isn't because your hand's hitting something, it's because your attack could never hit me. Now, I mistakenly said, okay, but then that would mean that he's like he would be weak to some type of, like, chemical and, like, biological weapons, right? No! Because his Infinity can filter out pollutants through oxygen. Bro is literally immune to any type of chemical weapon because his Infinity is just like, yeah, bro, that's poison. Get that out of here, mate. And it's automatic because he has unlimited cursed energy. How do we get over it? Okay, number one, you either need MacGuffin personified, that being Maharaga. And Maharaga, after a certain amount of time that you're fighting him and you hit him with something that doesn't immediately delete him, he can learn how to counter that attack. So for example, if Maharaga were to fight Gojo for an amount of time that would be deemed long enough, Maharaga would learn how to get through Gojo's Infinity. However, that takes a certain amount of time because Gojo could just hollow purple him and literally one-shot him. Keep talking about Infinity. He also has blue, red, and hollow purple, which literally has the power of deleting what's ever in front of it. I'm sorry. No, okay? On top of all of that, you can't really hit him. He can one-shot you. To be able to beat him, you either have to make a heavenly vow that you have to sacrifice one of your powers to get a power to beat him, which is also a MacGuffin in and of itself, or you have to have a very, very specific curse technique that allows you to adapt to his curse technique, that being Maharaga. And number one, that's assuming you're able to tame Maharaga, because to use Maharaga is actually something that you actually have to beat him. And I need this to be stated. You are attacking an enemy that is actively adapting to beat you unless you one-shot him. Which means that the longer you battle Maharaga, the less likely you are to win. So assuming that you can actually beat Maharaga and use that to face Gojo, then maybe you have a chance, but then again, he can literally just hollow purple you. And if Maharaga is gone, Maharaga's gone forever. I'm sorry, dude, we got into a lot of JJK lore. All that for me to really say, he's strong. Yes, no, Gojo in the entirety of this tier list is only in, like, the bottom tier. Why? Because the plot itself has weapons to beat him, and he has been beaten by enemies that I wouldn't deem are, like, literal god tier. Okay, we'll talk about what it means to be up here, but yeah, no, you gotta put Gojo here. And Gojo's lack of resurrection, I mean, yeah, you gotta put him in. He goes strong. Goku! Okay, understand this. I'm gonna make a lot of I'm gonna make a lot of Dragon Ball Z fans really angry in this one. I know I always say that, but like, here's the thing about Goku. The entirety of his series is essentially a very powerful character, basically Sun Wukong from Journey to the West mixed with Superman. And it's him actively becoming more powerful and powerful till he is literally doing multiversal battles with different versions of himself and literal gods like Beerus. Is he god level? 100%, okay? We are above absurdly strong, but Goku, and this is going to be one of those things that's a weird limiter, Goku has lost before. Goku can, in theory, lose. There are weaknesses to Goku. You have Ultra Instinct, which admittedly it just makes it so his brother cannot get hit by basically anything, which is kind of like Gojo's Infinity, but like not really at all. Essentially what it is that he can just dodge. Like literal light speed level dodging, but your brain just can't comprehend it because he's moving so fast. That is hilarious. Like, that's just funny, okay? When you're going through all the incarnations of Goku, you are dealing with a god tier level power. Is he God? No. There are a few characters that can, in theory, beat him. I'm not going to bring up the Death Note because the Death Note is a fucking power scaling, like, nightmare. Because the fact is if I use the Death Note, technically it can work on Goku, but then somebody's going to say, no. The Death Note only works on humans because the Shinigami only have domain over the humans. And in that case scenario, it doesn't work on Goku. And then it's like, I'm sorry, I'm just not opening that can of worms. I'm putting Goku in God tier. He can go toe-to-toe with characters like Beerus, which are gods, and probably universal, multiversal. I'm gonna put him in God tier. I think that's fair. Doomslayer! Okay, here's the problem with Doomslayer. The problem with Doomslayer is the fact that we don't know how powerful he is at his higher limit because what is stated inside of his lore and what he does in the games are very, very different. Like, number one, here's an example. There's a power-up that you can get inside of the Doom games where it's like Berserker mode and allows you to one-shot just about every enemy in the game. Canonically speaking, that thing does not exist. That is not a real thing in the world. That is literally just like Doom guy visualizing something in space. He goes through it and he loses patience and just like actually shows how powerful he is. He doesn't need weapons. Every single weapon that he has is because he thinks it would be more fun to use that than it would be not to. You ever wonder why, like, ammo and health just manifests out of enemies? Because he has the power to manifest matter out of other matter. Like, what? What do you mean? Oh yeah, so when you're doing a chainsaw and you're all the loot's coming out of them, you're manifesting that into reality. You know the soundtrack that you're listening to? Canonically speaking, the soundtrack that you're listening to inside of the Doom games is the soundtrack that's going on inside of the Doomslayer's head because he's actually really good at slaying on the guitar. Aura, I'm sorry, but like, on top of that, yes, he can, in theory, die, and that does hold him from, like, a god tier, and I know that's going to be kind of weird to think about because he did slay Devoth, and Devoth is the multiversal god of this universe. However, there are a few weaknesses that he does have. He doesn't have any, like, major creation power. He is just basically the cockroach of, like, these overpowered characters. Can you get rid of him? Yes. The power... The difficulty with beating the Doomslayer isn't that he's not endable. It's the fact that there's no afterlife that can actually hold him. Every single afterlife you put him in either don't want to accept him like heaven, or hell is forced to accept him and he just breaks out of it. And if you think about that, it's kind of a no-brainer. If hell could contain the Doomslayer, why do they actively have a religion of his second coming like he's the Antichrist? I'm sorry, dude, when we're looking at the Doomslayer, okay, because of how hard he is to get rid of, you do kind of have to put him in God tier. You gotta put him in God tier because his higher limit of durability is the confusing aspect. That is the weird thing to place here. I'm going to put him in God tier. I think that's fair. Femto from Berserk. The reason that I'm covering Femto, and this isn't me, I'm not shoehorning the Eclipse into every single video. However, the problem with doing stuff like the God Hand is their ability to legitimately manipulate fate is so difficult to think about. Femto is so untouchable within the universe of Berserk that it's so difficult to place him in any level of power because we actually haven't seen him struggle really. Not at all. The only time, Femto actually kind of made a mistake, and yes, no, Femto is Griffith, sorry, that's a spoiler. The only times that Griffith actually made a mistake when he's Femto is when he's actively learning his new powers and he made a slight mistake. Other than that, he literally does not make mistakes ever. He has the ability to manipulate fate itself. He can cause his own reincarnation through manipulating fate. He has otherworldly supernatural power over the events that occur inside on top of Earth. And he was bestowed this power by literally the idea of evil. The very concept of evil gave him these powers, okay? On top of all of that, he has ability to phase through any attack that he's hit with. He can even phase through attacks that literally cut space and time in front of him, and that doesn't affect him. His very presence literally manipulates fate, space, and time around him. No, I don't know. The problem is if you put Goku versus Griffith, you can also just argue, yeah, Griffith can manipulate fate as to not being that in position where he would be facing Goku. I'm going to put him in God tier. Is he the most powerful? No. The problem is that is such a weird ability to think about that he can literally manipulate fate that I have to put it in God tier. Superman. Superman is another one. Okay, because when I was going through what characters can actually beat Superman, I ran into an issue that only really occurs when we're talking about DC. And that is the prep time argument. Because the problem is people bring up Batman. Batman with prep time beats Superman. Okay, yeah, that's one. Iron Man with prep time also beats the shit out of Superman. If you gave Tony Stark kryptonite, acting like it would be any level of competitive between Superman and Iron Man is one of those things where it's maybe, but probably not. You're telling me that even if it was just a little tiny piece of kryptonite, that Superman wouldn't be able to make a one-shot, basically BFG against, specifically Superman? I don't know what to tell you, okay? When we're looking at Superman, the truth is you're dealing with the damn near invulnerability. You've got laser eyes. You go so fast that... Okay, I know it's weird because sometimes it can affect time. Sometimes it's, comparable to the Flash, but I'm going to be real. I think the Speed Force is just a completely thing entirety when we're looking at how fast Superman is. I think when we're trying to play Superman, I know Death Battle kind of got into some hot water because they said Superman would beat Goku. But this is where the problem is. Doomslayer kind of earns his spot because I don't think, even if you destroy the Doomslayer, he can reincarnate. When we're looking at Superman, I would put Superman in that Goku level of strength. I'm not going to make any arguments over the other, but they are not just God. I'm going to put him right there. Alien X. Oh my goodness gracious, dude. It is kind of funny that whenever I talk about overpowered characters, overpowered items, the number one thing that gets brought up is Ben 10. And the funny thing is I know Ben 10 would not even be remotely brought up if it wasn't for this one transformation. Alien X is probably... Ben 10 actually doesn't get a lot of credit for this. They introduce literally the most overpowered character in the entirety of this verse, right? And they accurately kind of explained what would happen. The fact is that the moment Ben 10 found out what Alien X was, he wouldn't use any other aliens other than Alien X. And realizing that this would actually trivialize every single threat in this verse, they introduced a pretty cool MacGuffin where Alien X is so powerful that the literal personification of judgment and peace come in, and they are the ones that have to limit the use of Alien X. I really do like that. Alien X is so powerful, the only thing that effectively limits him is the fact that Ben is not allowed to use him by basically the gods of the verse. And I think that's kind of cool. Alien X is meant to represent basically the Mega MacGuffin plot device. And the reason that they had to limit it is that the writers or the gods of the verse had to come in and basically say, yeah, you can't use that. That kind of ruins the writing here. Now, understand what I said. The gods of the verse had to limit Alien X. So that kind of actually gets him out of God tier. That completely boots him out of God tier. The God level. I'm going to put Alien X in God tier near the same level as like a Goku. The fact is like if you're looking at Alien X, he can make any type of matter. He can basically reassemble and assemble atoms at will. He could make kryptonite to slay Superman. He could. I'm going to put him right there. The God Emperor from Warhammer 40k. I'm going to make a lot of people mad with this one. The thing is that a lot of the most powerful portions of the 40k universe, when you're comparing it to stuff like Halo, when you're comparing it to stuff like Star Trek, when you're comparing it to other super sci-fi verses, 100%. However, when you're comparing like the God Emperor to other super absurdly powerful characters, you kind of have to limit them a little bit. Because I wouldn't put the God Emperor in the same conversation that we're putting a Doomslayer. Why? Doomslayer would not allow himself to be in a position like that, okay? Now, here comes the funny part. The God Emperor has the ability to reincarnate. But he can't reincarnate because during the Horus Heresy, where he was basically put into a living corpse, they put him on the Golden Throne to keep him alive by sacrificing psychers. And the kind of like divine comedy of that is realizing that if the Imperium just stopped feeding him psychers and he just died off, God Emperor would be able to reincarnate and be able to ascend to how powerful he once was. But nobody knows this because, that's just the plot. So when we're looking at him, he kind of has one of those abilities that puts him very similar to like a Doomslayer. However, the Doomslayer is more powerful than the God Emperor in just about every other way that matters, okay? Everything that's powerful about the God Emperor is about 1 to 2 pegs below what the Doomslayer is, and the problem is I'm looking at it through that lens, I'm putting the God Emperor in an absurdly strong tier. Very strong! Absurdly strong! But not as much as the Doomslayer. I'm sorry, the Doomslayer by himself beats the Imperium of Man, beats the Tyranids, arguably beats the Necrons, and beats the Chaos Gods. I'm sorry, he just does. The limiting factor of the Doomslayer is time. God Emperor, I'm putting him in absurdly strong, though. Creative Mode Steve from Minecraft. Okay. This is where it's going to be weird, because people are going to say, it's like, oh yeah, but he can't take damage, there's no way. Nope, he can. No. If he falls into the void, he dies. And I know that's going to be like no. I have to be that nitpicky. Okay? Steve does have a limiting factor. Yes, he has the ability to literally manifest matter at will by opening up in his inventory. 100%. However, in theory, there are ways to get rid of him, which does impose that he is about like demigod level strength and not full-on god level strength, okay? When I'm looking at Steve from Minecraft, the fact is I think he beats like a Gojo 100. Dude, what type of video is this? I just realized how wild this looks if you're like skip halfway through. Steve versus Gojo. I'm gonna keep it real here. If I'm looking at Steve, the ability to manifest matter at will, but he can die. You can argue a respawn mechanic, but at the same time, though, not really. There's not like a canonical reason behind that. When I'm looking at Creative Mode Steve, I'm going to put Creative Mode Steve in, I'd probably say lower God tier. Lower God tier, I think, is valid. I'm sorry, bro. Wait, Superman? I might have to move Superman down. Yeah, I'm going to move Superman down next to Steve. I think that's a valid take now that I look at it. Sun Wukong from Journey to the West. Okay. This is where, bro, Sun Wukong was the original power scaler's nightmare, dude. It is kind of funny to, like, you look through all of, like, these big literature pieces of the past. You got Homer's The Odyssey. You got, like, the Greek mythology stories. And then you go to the east a little bit, and you got Journey to the West. And this is the part that bothers me. Sun Wukong might be one of the most overrated characters I've ever seen, because on one side, people are going to be like, oh, well, he was able to do this, he was able to do that, and he has multiple layers of immortality. And I'm over here like, yes, but he has trouble with, like, demon kings. Like, I'm sorry, bro, like, that is the truth. There are multiple points in Journey to the West where he is legitimately struggling against characters that I just don't understand. Why are you struggling against this character? You literally were able to go on a one-man army throughout the basically of all of the Hindu religion just because you were like, yeah, bro, I kind of have to, I need to do that. You have the, Buddha is way more powerful than Sun Wukong. I think we can all agree on that, and that is the problem that we're going to look into in Sun Wukong. But doesn't have, like, the amount of powers that, like, a Femto would have. He's not, like, he is a god tier. Actually, you know what, to make some space. Okay, I'm going to move a few people when I move Sun Wukong around. I would put Sun Wukong, because of his ability to go toe-to-toe with, like, literal god-level villains, I'm going to put Sun Wukong next to a Goku, but I'm going to move Alien X to a god tier. Yes, I'm going to move him to a god tier. I think he barely makes it, but I think that's overall a pretty valid take. Saitama from One Punch Man. Okay, the reason I'm covering Saitama, and I didn't want to, I'll just gonna be real with you, I did not want to cover this character. The reason that I am covering Saitama is because whenever you talk about overpowered characters, you have to bring them up, and some people get mad that I don't bring them up. But here's the problem. Saitama is strong because it's funny. That is the writing of One Punch Man, okay? And, like, that's cool and everything, and you get some really cool scenes out of it. But if I'm looking at Saitama, literally any character that you give him, he beats them in one punch. Canonically speaking. Goku fans will get pressed by that. Like, it's like, no, he can't do that. No. Saitama wins because that is what the story is. Saitama being as powerful as he is the plot. Okay? Oh, he has to go back in time. He punches behind him and he can go back in time. Okay? He moves so quick. He moves so quick that he can fundamentally make copies of himself that can do other fights for him. I'm sorry, dude. Literally anything that Saitama has to do for the plot to move forward, he just does. He is MacGuffin the character. I'm putting Saitama in God. I'm just putting him in there. You just kind of have to. There are a few limiters to him. There's no fate manipulation. There's plot armor, but there's no fate manipulation. There's no, like, manifesting of matter. But I'm going to put him in God level. Scarlet Witch. This is a tough one, actually. You know what? I'm gonna have to move one character down in order to, like, make space for everybody here. But this is what I'm gonna bring up. When I'm looking at Scarlet Witch, she has a few abilities that just propel her to an absurd level of strength. However, she has a few key weaknesses that just kind of have to be brought up. Number one, the amount of time it takes her to manifest in these abilities where she can literally alter matter at a subatomic scale, where she can literally make and dismantle matter just out, like literally creating new matter, god level power. The problem is she has a crazy weakness of getting speed blitzed. Like, she still has human-level, like, comprehension and human-level reaction time. That there is a scenario, like, you were talking about this with, like, Superman versus Scarlet Witch. If Superman needed to, like, and just get rid of Scarlet Witch right then and there, he could speed blitz her and it's over. Superman versus Scarlet Witch would literally be like Conquest versus Adam Eve. Conquest could have won, but he didn't know the powers that he was dealing with and just speed blitzer done. When I'm looking at it that way, I'm going to move Scarlet Witch to absurdly strong, move God Emperor down to very strong because I need one in each tier, but it is that close. But I think that's a very valid thing. The thing is that after, like, she could in theory beat just about everybody here except for like the God level ones, but she literally needs the power and time and understanding to know what she has to change to beat them, and some of these characters literally just speed blitz her out of reality, so I'm gonna do it like that. The one above all in Marvel Comics, literally just the writers. It's literally the writers. This is what I was talking about, like when we're talking about like characters like Alien X. Alien X is limited by the literal gods of the verse or the writer's room. The one above all is literally just the writers of Marvel Comics. Anything that needs to be done, anything that needs to be undone, the one above all is the one that does it. Like, I need y'all to think about that. In the MCU equivalent of that, the one above all would literally just be Kevin Feige coming in here and telling them, hey, yo, bro, we're going to reset the entire timeline in 2027, which is kind of wild, by the way, if you think about it. But, like, you know what, bro? No balls. At the end of Avengers Secret Wars, I want Kevin Feige wrapped in a cloak, like resetting the entire timeline, and he's the one that plays the one above all. I think that would be kind of funny. Obviously, the one above all goes in the God tier. I think that's fair. He's literally the personification of the writers, but I think that's a valid placement. And there you go. That is me ranking the most powerful characters in fiction. If this video was entertaining you, please consider to like, comment, and subscribe. And we're trying to get to 250,000 subscribers before the end of the year. 500,000 before the release of GTA 6. We have a lot of stuff coming. We got Q&As. We got live streams coming. We got new video types coming. We got a whole lot coming, and I'm happy to do it because I am blessed to do what I do for you, okay? And with all that out of the way, I hope to see you in the next video. Adios, guys. And I will see you all in the next one. Adios.